The Queen Mother's eyes, cold and menacing, gleamed in the darkness as she hissed, "That girl is not just a child. She is strong, more powerful than you can imagine. I don't like that woman Daddy brought home. She has cat eyes." She transformed into a massive snake, slithered towards the large mirror on the wall, and vanished into its reflective surface, leaving nothing but a cold silence behind. The dimly lit bar was filled with the familiar hum of conversations, clinking glasses, and the occasional burst of laughter. Onyema leaned back in his chair, a half-empty bottle of beer in his hand, his eyes reflecting a mixture of weariness and longing. Across the table, his friends Jude and Ofo sat, their faces glowing with the warmth of camaraderie.
"Onyema, you need to stop hiding behind that bottle,"
Ofo teased, his voice carrying a hint of concern.
"It's been 2 years since Amara passed. It's high time you got a woman to take care of your daughter. You are not getting any younger, you know."
Onyema sighed deeply, the weight of her first words settling on him like a heavy cloak.
Ofo, it's not that simple. Amara was everything to me. Since she died, I have tried to focus on raising Adora the best way I can. Mana, if I brought another woman into our lives, one name, I'm sure I'm ready for that.
Jude, who had been quietly listening, leaned forward, his tone more serious.
"Onyema, Ada needs a mother figure. She's only 7, and as much as you love her, she needs more than what you can give. My guy, chee echiche banyere ya."
The words hung in the air, heavy and unavoidable. Onyema knew that they were right. Adora had been his sole focus since Amara's death, and though he had tried his best, there were moments when he could see the loneliness in her eyes, the absence of a mother's touch. Onyema glanced at his watch and realized how late it had become.
"You are right," he
Finally admitted, pushing back his chair.
"But right now, I need to get home. The nanny's been with Adora all day, and I promised I would relieve her by 9.
Jude and Ofo nodded, understanding the urgency in his voice. As Onyema settled the bill and left the bar, the night air hit him with a cool embrace, a stark contrast to the warmth inside. He hurried into his car, his mind still swirling with the thoughts planted by his friends. The road home was long and winding, cutting through a stretch of forest that seemed to swallow the light from his headlights. As he turned a sharp bend in the road, his headlights illuminated a figure in the distance. A woman. She stood by the side of the road, waving desperately. Onyema slowed down, his curiosity piqued. The closer he got, the more he noticed her. She was stunningly beautiful, tall, with long flowing hair and deep mysterious eyes that seemed to shimmer in the night. There was something almost enchanting about her. Onyema slowed down his car and rolled down the window.
"Are you okay? Do you need a ride?"
he asked, his voice laced with concern. The woman turned her gaze to him, her lips curling into a soft, inviting smile. "Thank you," she said, her voice smooth and melodious. "I was just on my way home. I would appreciate the ride." Without hesitation, Onyema unlocked the door.
"Get in."
She gracefully slid into the passenger seat, her presence filling the car with a subtle, intoxicating fragrance. As they drove, Onyema couldn't shake the feeling that there was something unusual about this woman. She was too perfect, too serene, and yet he found himself drawn to her. The spoken low tones, her voice soothing. When he finally dropped her off by her gate, she thanked him with a lingering look that sent shivers down his spine. "See you around, handsome," she said before walking away. Onyema watched her go, a strange mix of relief and unease settling in his chest. As he drove home, the image of her haunting smile stayed with him, stirring something deep within, something he couldn't quite place. As Onyema's car disappeared into the darkness, Nneka stood still, her eyes following the red tail lights until they vanished from sight. Then, her lips curled into an eerie smile. The night air grew colder, and a strange silence settled over the place. Slowly, she turned her head, her body seeming to ripple with an unnatural grace. With a soft hiss, her skin shimmered and her form shifted. In a matter of seconds, Neka's graceful body transformed into a massive snake, its scales gleaming under the pale moonlight. With a hiss, the snake slithered into the nearby bush. Have you ever noticed how evil often strikes when someone is on the path to greatness? There's a reason for that, and Onyema's story is about to reveal why. But before we dive into the spine-chilling tale, this is a plea to you, my amazing viewers who are yet to subscribe, to please be a part of my growth by clicking on the subscribe icon. To you, my returning subscribers, thank you so much. Now, brace yourselves because what you're about to watch will leave you on the edge of your seat. Let's get into it. Onyema arrived home much later than expected. The house was quiet, the only sound coming from the ticking clock in the hallway. He gently opened the door to his daughter's room and saw her fast asleep. A sense of guilt tugged at his heart. He had been out too long. He found the nanny sitting patiently on the couch in the living room.
I'm so sorry for keeping you this late.
Onyema said, rubbing the back of his neck awkwardly.
You should stay the night. It's too late for you to go home now.
The nanny smiled warmly. It's no problem, sir. I'll stay. Onyema thanked her and headed to his room, exhaustion beginning to weigh him down. But as he lay on his bed, sleep didn't come easily. His mind kept drifting back to the woman he had dropped off earlier. Her beautiful smile replayed in his thoughts over and over again. There was something about her that he couldn't shake off. He turned on his side, then back again, restless. What is it about her? Who is she? The question swirled in his head until finally sleep claimed him. The next morning, Onyema woke up early, his mind still clouded with the memory of the woman. He dressed up quickly, not waiting for Ada to wake up, and slipped out of the house without a word. He drove with purpose, heading straight for the streets where he had dropped her off the night before. He had to know who she was. When he arrived at the spot, he began asking the locals if they had seen the woman.
A pretty lady, long hair, beautiful smile.
But every person he asked gave him the same puzzled look. No one knew who he was talking about. Frustration gnawed at him. How could someone so striking vanish without a trace? He hadn't even asked for her name. Defeated, Onyema got back into his car and drove to his shop, his mind a mess of confusion and yearning. Meanwhile, deep within the hidden coven, a low sinister laughter filled the air. Snake-like women, their bodies half human, half serpent, slithered around the chamber, their eyes glowing with wicked amusement. They had been watching Onyema, and his desperation only fueled their glee. He's already under her spell. One of them hissed, her fangs glinting as she spoke. He won't be able to escape now. Another said, and they all laughed eerily. At the center of the chamber, the giant form of the Queen Mother, a massive snake with eyes as dark as the night, rose above the others. Neka! She hissed, her voice commanding and ancient. Neka appeared from the shadows, her body still holding the elegance of a woman, though her serpent nature was unmistakable. She slithered forward and bowed before the Queen Mother. You have done well, the Queen Mother said, her eyes glowing with pride. But your mission is far from over. Go into the world, my child. Kill, confuse, seduce, and destroy. Let no one stand in your way. The other snake women laughed. Their laughter filled the air as Neka's form shimmered and vanished into thin air, leaving only a trace of darkness behind. Days passed, and Onyema had almost put the mysterious encounter with the lady from the lonely road behind him. He was back at his shop, focused on attending to customers, when out of the corner of his eye, he saw her. She stepped into the shop, her beauty instantly captivating everyone inside. Conversations stopped and heads turned as she glided gracefully across the room, her presence demanding attention without her even trying. Onyema's heart skipped a beat.
Ha! Is this not the lady I gave a lift the other day?
He muttered excitement rising. Without wasting a moment, he hurried over to her, his eyes wide with recognition, but she gave no hint of knowing him, her face composed.
Excuse me,
Onyema said, smiling nervously.
I think we have met before. I'm the one who gave you a lift some days back.
Nneka's eyes sparkled with sudden recognition. Oh, now I remember. She smiled warmly. How have you been? She asked, her eyes gleaming with excitement.
I've been here hustling.
Onyema replied, chuckling awkwardly.
By the way, what's your name?
He asked. Nneka, she said, her voice soft but confident. But my friends call me Nne.
I'm Onyema, the CEO, Onyema Provision Stores, one of Alaba.
He said with a grin. They exchanged phone numbers, and that was the beginning of their relationship. Onyema and Nneka started hanging out more frequently, grabbing lunch, sharing stories, and laughing like old friends. Onyema found himself drawn to her in a way he hadn't felt since the death of his wife. One evening, they met at a posh restaurant. The atmosphere was cozy, the lighting dim and intimate. As they sat across from each other, Onyema finally allowed himself to say what had been on his mind for some time.
Nneka,
He began, his voice soft.
I have to tell you something. Since I lost my wife, no woman has ever made me feel this good.
Nneka's eyes sparkled as she smiled warmly. I'm glad you feel that way, she said, her voice soothing.
Mananne, there is something else.
Onyema continued, feeling a little nervous but determined.
I would love for you to meet my daughter Ada. She's everything to me, and I think she would like you.
Nneka's smile didn't waver. I would love to meet her. The next evening, after closing for the day, Onyema drove to Nneka Street to pick her up, and as they drove, Onyema couldn't help but glance at her now and then, his heart pounding with a mixture of excitement and nervousness. When they arrived at Onyema's house, Inem, the nanny, was the first to open the door, her welcoming smile freezing the moment her eyes landed on Nneka. Goosebumps rose along her arms, and she stood motionless for a moment, as if some invisible force had seized her. Good evening, ma, Inem greeted, her voice shaky. Good evening, Nneka responded smoothly, her smile unwavering. But Inem couldn't shake the feeling that something wasn't right. Her instinct screamed, but she swallowed hard and stepped aside to let her in. Moments later, Ada came out of her room, her wide eyes observing the guest her father had brought home. Onyema smiled warmly at his daughter.
Ada, come and meet daddy's friend.
Onyema said, his tone gentle, but the moment Ada came close to Nneka, her cheerful expression faltered. She felt uneasy. There was something about this woman, something that made her small heart race, and not in a good way. Nneka bent down slightly to talk to Ada. Hello, Ada, she said sweetly, but Ada shifted back, her eyes narrowing in discomfort. Onyema noticed the tension but brushed it aside, too taken by Nneka's charm to see what was happening beneath the surface.
Go say hi properly, Ada,
he urged, but Ada only stepped back, her discomfort clear.
She's a bit shy.
Onyema chuckled nervously. She'll come around soon. After Onyema left the house with Nneka, Ada walked into the kitchen where Inem was preparing some food. Auntie, Ada began, her voice barely above a whisper. I don't like that woman Daddy brought home. She has cat eyes. Inem chuckled, thinking it was just a child's imagination. Ada, you can't be serious. Her eyes are normal. But Ada shook her head, her little face tight with worry. No, Auntie, I'm serious. I saw it. Her eyes. They looked scary. I don't like her. Inem stopped what she was doing, the laughter dying in her throat. She knelt beside Ada, sensing the child's fear. Ada was never one to make things up, and Inem herself had felt something unsettling when she saw Nneka, but she didn't want to scare Ada more. Ada, Inem said, pulling her close, I understand, but don't be afraid, okay? She's just your daddy's guest. If you ever feel scared again, remember the prayers your mommy taught you, alright? Ada nodded, her little arms wrapping around Inem's waist in a tight hug. Okay, Auntie. Nneka was alone in her room, her mind restless. She paced back and forth, her eyes narrowing as she thought about Ada, the child's quick reaction to her, the way she had stepped back. It wasn't normal. Does Ada know? Nneka's unease grew. Why was she so quick to back away from me? She needed answers and she knew where to get them. Without hesitation, Nneka's body began to shift. Her skin stretched, her bones contorted, and soon she transformed into a massive snake. In a swift motion, she slithered toward the giant mirror in the corner of the room. The moment her body touched the surface, she vanished. On the other side, she arrived in the dark, eerie coven, the air thick with the presence of other snake-like women hissing and laughing. She bowed low before the giant serpent that was their queen mother.
Queen Mother,
Nneka began, her voice low and respectful.
I encountered an issue. The child, Ada, she stepped away from me too quickly. I fear she knows something.
The queen mother's eyes, cold and menacing, gleamed in the darkness.
That girl is not just a child. She is strong, more powerful than you can imagine. To get the soul of a father, you must first eliminate her. Do everything in your power to destroy that child, or your mission will fail.
Nneka nodded, understanding the gravity of the task. She knew Ada had to be eliminated. Without another word, Nneka vanished from the coven, her next move clear in her mind. Back at Onyema's home, Inem sat beside Ada on her bed, her soft voice reading verses from the Bible. The words felt comforting in the quiet of the room, as though they formed a protective shield around them. Just then, the door creaked open and Onyema stepped inside, smiling gently at the sight of them. I'll take it from here, Inem, Onyeka said softly, dismissing her. Inem nodded and left the room quietly. Onyema sat beside Ada, brushing her hair lightly.
Adam, are you okay?
Ada looked up at her father, her voice soft but firm.
Daddy, I don't like Auntie Nneka. She has cat eyes.
Onyema laughed.
Oh, Adam, you say the funniest things.
He shook his head, amused.
Her eyes are just fine. It's because you don't know her yet. Nne is a wonderful person, and I'm sure with time you will like her just as much as I do.
Ada wasn't convinced, but she trusted her father. She shrugged and replied,
Okay, Daddy.
They read the Bible together, and in no time, Ada drifted into a peaceful sleep. Outside, in the shadows, Nneka watched keenly, her mind already plotting her next move. Onyema leaned back in his chair, laughing heartily as he clinked bottles with his friends, Ofo and Jude. The bar was lively, and the cool evening breeze seemed to heighten the good mood. For a moment, Onyeka felt at ease, his worries tucked away. But as their conversation shifted, his thoughts returned to Nneka and Ada.
So, Onyema,
Jude began, leaning forward with a knowing grin.
how's that fine woman of yours? Nneka, right?
Onyema smiled but then sighed.
She's amazing, Jude. Really amazing. But there's something bothering me.
His voice dropped and the cheer in his eyes dimmed slightly.
Ada doesn't like her at all.
Ofo raised an eyebrow.
Ada, your little girl? Why not?
I don't know.
Onyema replied, shaking his head.
She says Nneka has house cat eyes. Can you imagine? I have tried to explain that Nneka is a good person, but Ada's not buying it. I want to marry Nneka, but what if Ada never accepts her?
Ofo took a thoughtful sip of his beer before leaning forward.
Bro, I get it. Ada is your world, but maybe she just needs time. You know how kids are, especially when it involves their dad bringing someone new into the picture.
Onyema nodded slowly, his brow furrowing.
Yeah, but what do I do?
Ofo smiled, a spark of an idea lighting up his eyes.
Invite Nneka over for the weekend. Let her stay at the house. You said Ada loves spending time with you, right? Well, if Nneka is there too, maybe she'll see a different side of her. A whole weekend should help them bond.
Jude nodded in agreement.
Ofo was right. The more time they spend together, the more Ada will warm up to her. Trust me.
Onyema mulled over the suggestion, tapping his fingers on the table.
You know what? That's a great idea. I'll do it. Thanks, guys.
The conversation shifted back to lighter topics, but Onyema's mind was already planning. He couldn't wait to tell Nneka. The next morning, Onyema picked up his phone and dialed Nneka's number. Her voice came through soft and sweet, and he could practically hear her smile. "Hello, love," she greeted him.
Meh, I have been thinking.
Onyema began, his voice warm.
Why don't you come over this weekend and spend time at the house? I would love for you and Ada to get to know each other better.
There was a brief pause before Nneka's excitement bubbled through the phone. "Really? You want me to come over? Oh, Onyema, I would love that." Her voice was filled with joy. "I'll pack my bags right away." After they ended the call, Nneka stood in the middle of her room, a wicked smile creeping onto her face. She began to dance, twirling with delight, her laughter echoing through the room. She whispered to herself, her eyes gleaming with malice, "Watch out for me, Ada. Your days are numbered." With a final eerie laugh, she transformed into a massive snake, her scales shimmering in the light of the room. She slithered toward the large mirror on the wall, her body twisting gracefully before vanishing into its reflective surface, leaving nothing but a cold silence behind. If you enjoyed the story and would like to know how the story progressed, please consider subscribing to this channel, not forgetting to turn on the bell notification icon so that once the other part of this video is being posted, you will be the first to be notified. You can also check out these videos here. I promise you won't be disappointed. Till we meet again in my next video, remain blessed.